Welcome everyone to the Sports Facilities Company's webinar series. I'm partner Eric Sullivan and really looking forward to today's topic. We are going to be talking about how soccer is helping to fuel growth and development, and specifically in small to mid-sized markets. Really excited about today's discussion, joined by three special guests here in the USL studios with Justin Papadakis, and we'll also have two featured guests that are joining from communities that are currently one on their journey and one feeling the impacts of a successful development in Rhode Island. Just some housekeeping notes for today. The session will be recorded, so if you missed anything, don't worry. We will send you out a recording afterwards. You can drop your email in the chat and we'll make sure we get that to you. Second, we'll be answering questions from you all. So if you have questions that come up along the way, feel free to put those in the chat and we will address the questions at the end. And last but not least, if there are any technical difficulties, please just also drop a note in the chat and our tech team will help to clear any of those issues up. Well, let's set the stage for today's talk. Soccer, as anyone who knows me on this webinar series knows, it's near and dear to my heart, something I'm really passionate about, and it continues to surge here in the United States. And it's not just the major markets that are feeling the impacts of soccer, and specifically professional soccer, and their communities. What we're going to be talking about today is really focusing on small and mid-sized communities and their journey to have professional soccer in their markets. Three leaders in the space that we're going to talk to you about today. As I mentioned, Justin Papadakis, who is the United Soccer League's Deputy CEO and Chief Real Estate Officer. We'll also be joined later by Dan Krober, who's the co-founder and executive board member of the Rhode Island FC, and Raylan Ferreira, who is the Town of Firestone, Colorado Assistant Town Manager. As we dive in here, Justin, thank you for taking the time. Really looking forward to the discussion. Likewise. Absolutely. So let's just start out by talking a little bit about USL's strategy to really partner with small and mid-sized communities and their success.
Sure. So I'll take you back to 2008 when my dad, who's our CEO, and we were in LA Live. And I think in the stadium anchored development space, LA Live is one of the seminal projects. And so, but even in a major market like LA, it took a stadium anchored project to get, the surrounding development going. And so my dad and I said, well, even in a market like LA, if it needed this, what about if we took this across the country? So fast forward from 2008, and I think now we're close to $3 billion of stadiums under development. And I think certainly going to be the largest stadium builder in the world with 30 plus stadiums over the next 5 years.
Gosh, that's exciting. So Justin, talk a little bit about what makes mid-sized cities particularly attractive. When you think about fan engagement, when you think about cost structure, and some of the other development factors, what makes small and mid-sized markets appealing?
So I'll break up and have small and mid-sized into two categories. We have markets 33 and up, MSAs, and then markets 1 to 30, but outside of the core area itself, like Firestone outside Denver. And so what made us so excited about these was something pretty simple. People who live in these markets want a first-class venue to attend games, to have live entertainment with their friends and family, just like people who live in top 30 markets. And so what we wanted to do was to build first-class stadium anchored districts. And the way to do that is to have city, county, and state partners that really believed in that. And we can show them the hundreds of millions of dollars and now billions of dollars of economic impact that we can bring along with these developments in soccer stadiums.
Excellent. And Justin, when you're looking at these markets, is there any specific data or are there any market indicators or factors that are particularly appealing to you from the league perspective?
So from a threshold perspective, I do think you need a certain core population with a trade area of over 200,000 people. When you look beyond that, though, one of the things that I always remember when we were announcing our team in New Mexico, and they said, with pride, out of 50 states, we're 51st in household income, population growth, corporate base, all the traditional metrics. Fast forward, despite that, they're getting 14,000 people a game, and they haven't even opened up their new stadium yet. Wow. And so you look down at, we have a new League Two team, which is our pre-professional in Annapolis. I was at a game this year with 14,000 people. You look at our community, new communities in Vermont and Antelope Valley. You don't see a correlation between population and success. What you need is great real estate and a municipal partner that believes in your vision.
Absolutely. Can't stress enough how important that political will is, right?
That's right.
You mentioned this. You've got billions of dollars in activated stadium development. Talk a little bit about a standalone stadium versus what we're seeing now as far as sports-anchored mixed-use stadium districts.
It's a great point. So the originally stadium-anchored district meant a stadium with apartments, hotels, retail around it. What we've tried to really innovate on is to really think broadly about what's the best use when we think about mixed use for a particular market. We'll touch on in Firestone. There it was a mixed use component along with a number of fields, right? And so how we come to really determine that is we bring in the best partners like SFC to help us really understand the markets, understand the demand dynamics, and then really customize our projects to our communities, not coming in with one standard model.
Excellent. And when you think about that, it's got to be great for fan engagement, right? Create a more exciting game day because there's more things happening around the stadium. Have you seen that come to life in markets?
We call our stadiums our community living rooms, and we really try to build multi-purpose venues and multi-purpose districts. So in addition to men's and women's soccer games, we can host high school football state championship, concert, festivals, graduations. We really want to have the stadium be multi-purpose so that the demand drivers are very constant throughout. A great way of doing that is having fields, because fields, those are absent weather, aren't very seasonal. And so when you can put these high quality demand drivers, when you look forward and see what sectors are going to be the most in demand, we think live entertainment and field sports. And so we can put those together. We think that's what's attracting so much investor interest in investing into this asset class.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, Justin, you mentioned multi-field, and so those are fields in addition to the stadium pitch. When you think about the Gainbridge Super League and we think about the youth academies really reshaping stadium development and facility development as we know it, what are some of the trends or what are some of the things that you're seeing with communities that are really getting it right?
So with Super League, we want to bring professional women's soccer closer to home. Soccer has a really unique advantage compared to all the other sports, in that it's the only sport with a direct connection between pro and youth. And so when we can take these amazing youth soccer clubs and bring them all together underneath a professional pillar, that's where I think we can create a really strong community club. And that's what we want to build, is these community assets. And that's built by having strong community buy-in and having the fields where kids can come play week in and week out, where you can bring in adult tournaments and really program these fields during the week and on weekends for local use and for tournament use. That's how you can have great soccer for the community, but also bring in that economic impact that helps pay for the district.
I think it's got to be great for the pro players as well, because it probably puts some more fandom right in the seats as well with the youth club players, correct?
Absolutely. I think when you can have this connection between youth and pro, fields are fields. When you bring a professional team in, now it's a high performance training facility. And so something we work with our city and county partners on is thinking about space that has been underutilized. So for example, there's many examples that we have across the country where there's a park space that's just really gone downhill, and the community around it's frustrated because there's just a lot of it turns into kind of like a homeless area, and so they're trying to think, how do we fix it? And so one solution that we have is, hey, most markets, as you know very well, are underfielded.
Sure.
And so when we can bring a high performance training facility, that enables the city and county to think, okay, we can invest in that. It helps the community because now it's a very exciting thing to have a low density kind of training center there. And so that's where we really try to work with our community partners to see what are the problems, what areas have been underutilized from a land perspective, and how can we bring solutions to the table that help all the stakeholders in the market.
Makes sense. It's got to be good for those mixed-use development partners as well, because now we're not just activating the space on game day, but also during different times of the week and different times of the year.
That's right.
Excellent. So we're going to shift gears a little bit. I'm sure there's a lot of soccer fans on this webinar who are really excited about next summer and the World Cup coming to America in 26. When you think about cities, municipalities that maybe aren't host cities, but they want to benefit from the soccer impact, the wave of excitement that's going to come, any thoughts or ideas around activation, watch parties, or ways that USL is helping to get it on the World Cup fever?
Absolutely. So there's a couple ways. First would be, let's have watch parties. That is a great way to show how much the community supports soccer. And then along the way, let's have a discussion about how can we bring professional soccer? Because professional soccer is something to help attract and retain people. But most importantly, I think it's a tool for economic development. So let's find the piece of land that the cities had and they just haven't figured out what to do with it. How do we turn a blighted area into a destination? And that's what we've been so excited to work with our amazing city partners on, about tackling hard land that just no one's been able to solve and turn it into something that's a true community asset.
Justin, that's a great point. It's not just about new community development. It's also about community redevelopment and impact in existing markets.
And I think, your two other guests today can talk about that, in a big way, where they took land that was sat there for a long time, had some environmental issues, and then in Firestone, this amazing property that they've been so, I think, diligent in keeping for the right project and studying it to making sure that they could really bring in something that was the best for the community. But what that requires is assemblage, and they've been able to hold it for a number of years and have the patience to wait for something great. Okay, excellent. All right, now here's one of the questions that I was most excited about today, and I think it's very relevant when we think about small and mid-sized stadiums, small and mid-sized markets in competing, and that's this notion of promotion and relegation. Certainly, soccer fans are no stranger to it in the English leagues and other leagues around the world, but is there any truth that there may be some opportunities for promotion and relegation here in the USL in the future? Absolutely. We've been working on it for a number of years. Last year, our owners passed it, and so promotion relegation is coming to the USL, and what that will mean is an amazing, I think, opportunity for markets, as you said, that you're not determined your level by your market size. The level is determined by how it should be on-field performance. What will happen, what's I think is so exciting is sports fans, they want to watch matches of consequence. And what promotion relegation does, it makes every game have a consequence. And that's where USL is going to be very, I think, very unique, where we have these, on the men's side, 3 interconnecting tiers that every season you could move up or you could move down, but you're going to be fighting against, the quote unquote larger markets. And I have no doubt what we'll see is, when it's on the field level to level, our small and mid-sized markets can outperform on the field, and they can outperform off the field in terms of attendance and excitement for their teams. And so that's where now you have a system where everyone plays together, and we'll be able to show, the big markets how the traditional smaller markets are actually, I think, some of the best sports markets in the country.
I love that, and it will certainly set us up for some David and Goliath type
That's
battles
right.
and a lot of excitement for sure. Justin, talk about just more the future of USL. In addition to promotion and relegation, what's next for the organization? How are you going to continue to help grow the game in the United States?
So our passion is growing the game, as you just said. How we want to do that is growing the game through having first-class fan experience. And so what we do a lot here is think about the fan. And so these districts are a big part of how to create this holistic fan experience before the game and after the game. Soccer is different than baseball, for example. So in baseball, as your audience knows, you have 8 stoppages of play, which means a lot of the food and beverage is consumed in there, inside the game. The games are 3 hours long or 6 hours long. The average age is 20 years older in soccer. So when we think about the soccer fan, we have to design around those factors. So having a district where fans can come before the game and stay after the game, having retail bars and restaurants where, again, unlike baseball, where everything's consumed inside, we can really support the local bars and restaurants. You don't have a tailgate culture in soccer like American football, where you kind of bring your own food and eat in the parking lot. Soccer fans want to eat at the bars and restaurants around, and they want to walk to the game. And so that's how I think we're building these districts so that our fans can come spend their whole evening down there. And so our city partners are capturing all of that, those tax dollars being spent. Our local businesses are able to benefit from the soccer concerts, festivals, graduations, this constant stream of people. And so when you put all those together, I think that's what makes for a successful community partner on and off the field.
Absolutely. We've certainly seen that right here in our own backyard, St. Petersburg, right, with the Rowdies.
That's right.
Great before and after match. Colorado Springs, certainly in Pawtucket. We're going to talk to Dan here in just a moment. A lot of excitement about some of those more urban stadium settings as well as the dedicated districts.
That's right.
Excellent. Well, Justin, thank you so much for joining us. You're going to stick around and help us answer some questions here. And next, we are going to go over to Dan Krober. Just by way of introduction, Dan has helped lead the charge on a really exciting development in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Last spring, they opened the doors on over $400 million mixed-use development that is home to the stadium, that's home to the Rhode Island FC. Dan, thank you so much for joining us.
Eric, thanks for having me. It's a real honor to be here and appreciate being a part of this great conversation.
Absolutely. Well, Dan, you've experienced and lived this firsthand. What makes the USL such a unique and impactful development partner for a sports-anchored district?
Yeah, look, we've been at this for a bit, and USL really is unique in that way. And I'll start by saying what's unique about, and it's maybe something about the way USL approaches the sport. Soccer really is a community-based sport. So when we come into Rhode Island, we happen to be coming into a community that had just recently lost their minor league baseball team. The Pawtucket Red Sox had picked up and left and went to Worcester, Massachusetts, which we happen to think is a cardinal sin for sports teams to do. But we led with soccer, right? So we led with the United Soccer League, who has this community-based focus of you come into a community and you become part of the community. And that's something that's really unique about soccer compared to other sports. And also, USL is really coming into markets and kind of right-sizing what they're doing for that marketplace, right? So we came into a market in Rhode Island that had no professional sports, right? They probably would never get an NFL team. They'd never get an NBA team. But guess what? A USL championship club in Pawtucket, Rhode Island is actually perfect. And we've now been the professional team for the state of Rhode Island, which they can never say before. They're rooting for the Boston teams, the New York teams. And because of the size, it's just right fit for that market. And that's what USL is doing incredibly well. You look around the league, you look at the Portland Maines of the world, again, the same thing, capturing the hearts and minds of the residents in a different way than's ever been done before because of that community focus that the USL has in their clubs.
That's fantastic, Dan. And when we think about your project, Tidewater Landing is one of the most ambitious stadium soccer projects in the country, but it's not just a 10,500 seat stadium. It's truly a district, and it has elements for live, work, play. Can you talk about how that idea came to life, and was it always a district, or did it really start out as a standalone stadium? How did that evolve?
Yeah, great question. Short answer is it was always the plan.
Nice.
We actually would not recommend that you go in and build a stadium in the middle of a parking lot, or you build a stadium in the middle of a green field. That's just not the way that we think. It's not the way that USL thinks. So we really lead with a stadium is an anchor. It's the draw of people coming into a community. So the city of Pawtucket, the land where we developed, we have 10 acres of land. It was a former manufactured gas plant where the stadium now sits. We worked with the local utility to clean up that land. It was a really complicated project, but it was well worth it because we cleaned that project up. We acquired the property and working with the city of Pawtucket adjacent. So we're right on a river, and we now own two sides of a river that now are being developed around a once very, very environmentally compromised site. So now we have the buildings for an incredible new waterfront development. But it all started with the stadium. We always felt that there was a tremendous need when those people are coming into the stadium. You have that capture, right? So how do we build retail around the stadium that captures those folks that are coming in and keeps them there, has them dining locally, has them shopping locally? And then in Pawtucket, which is not dissimilar from everywhere else that we're looking at projects right now, there's a tremendous need for housing in this country, in almost every single city, affordable housing, market rate housing. And we're really, kind of seeing that need through. We're building a ton of housing. And as I could see in back of you, Colorado Springs did a great job with that. They built an apartment building right at the end cap of the stadium, which actually creates a really cool place to live for people, and it creates a pretty dramatic view for that stadium as well. So we're taking a page out of their book. So we're building an apartment building on the north side of the stadium, which will be a really cool place to live, right on the waterfront, right next to this multi-purpose venue. But yeah, to answer your question, it was always about building something much broader than just a stadium.
Sounds like perfect home for a Rhode Island FC fan to live.
That's right, exactly.
So Dan, Tidewater Landing is a public-private partnership, or a P3. That's a term that's thrown around a lot, it's used a lot. What are some thoughts around, one, the importance of this being a public-private development where you've got investment both from the public sector and the private sector, and what are maybe some lessons learned from that journey?
Yeah, so I would start by saying these projects are not easy, right? So you're not going to go into them thinking it's easy. These projects are quite hard. And they're hard on the private side, they're hard on the public side, right? But it's critical. The project in Rhode Island would not have happened if not for the support of the state and the city. And they had kind of learned some lessons, right? They had just lost their minor league baseball team that was there for 86 years in the city of Pawtucket. So they kind of knew the importance of having sports. It was part of their identity in the city of Pawtucket. It was part of who they were in the state of Rhode Island. Having this team was kind of as I say, we returned the heartbeat back to the city of Pawtucket. When that team left, it created a major hole in it. So we responded to an RFP shortly after the Pawtucket Red Sox announced they were leaving. In that RFP, we proposed the stadium, we proposed this development around it. But we had state and city officials that knew the value that sports was going to bring. And they were very clear to say to us, we don't want just a stadium. We need this to be an economic driver of everything that we're doing in the city, right? So what we're now seeing, the stadium opened this May. It's been incredibly successful. The attendance has been, better than expectations. Many sellouts this year. And now we're starting to see some of those economic drivers, which I know municipalities would probably be interested in. We're actually over-indexing on the economic impact. So the returns are really strong. But what I would say is these projects are hard. There's no doubt about it. It takes great, private partners, public partners that kind of understand the vision. They understand what you're driving toward. And you need to see that out because the returns, not just economically, which the city of Pawtucket's now seeing that, the state of Rhode Island seeing that, but also the community, right? The community now has something of their own to be proud of. You're seeing, our games on, we had a game nationally broadcast on CBS earlier this year. So the city of Pawtucket is on national broadcast. Every game is on ESPN or CBS. So the returns for a community are super strong in terms of relevance for their community.
They're not easy, but not without reward. I saw some statistics, and you can fact check me here, that this project has led to over 1,100 new jobs in the market and is on pace to generate upwards of $30 million annually to the local economy. Is that right?
All those are right. And those are actually as I said, over indexing from what we're seeing. There's actually already been, so we are in a TIF district where this stadium is. And just in the last year, there's been an incremental increase of $7 million in that TIF district as a result of this project and other stuff that's happening. And what we're seeing around the state, it's not just us that are investing in Pawtucket again. There's other developers that are investing. We moved our front office, we employ over 70 people. We moved that to downtown within the district. Those are boots on the ground. Those are people that are, shopping in the local stores, going to the local restaurants. So the impact of all the parts that kind of come together on this are super significant. And the job creation, it's not just the temporary jobs, right? We had over 700 construction jobs created just from the stadium alone. That doesn't speak to the other $300 million of work we're doing around it. But there's also lots of temporary jobs. We employ almost 400 people on an event day. And those are really important jobs for people supplementing their income with second incomes. So the job creation, the economic impact is pretty significant.
Excellent. One of the things that Justin mentioned that I thought was really interesting was this whole idea of redevelopment and maybe underutilized land being turned into a real driving asset for the community. You're urban, you're waterfront, there are some environmental considerations. Talk to us about your journey with the real estate and some of the things that you had to work through to make this vision come to life.
Yeah, again, nothing about this project was easy. But yeah, you start with the site that we were developing. So that, like I said, the stadium was a former manufactured gas plant. There was all sorts of bad remnants of that in the ground. They were actually literally having to monitor a plume of oil that was leaching into this riverfront, this beautiful river that flows down into Providence, which goes down into Newport. Was toxic, and you wouldn't want to build housing, or you probably couldn't even build housing adjacent to the stadium site. So the cleanup of that site really is what kind of set this whole project in motion. Now we have a lot of people that come in and say, "How do you guys own two sides of a river in this beautiful riverfront?" We say, "Well, just rewind 5 years and see what the site looked like 5 years ago, where there was smokestacks and remnants of old tar pits." So it is amazing to see kind of where it's come, but it was complicated environmentally. One recommendation I would have for folks that are contemplating projects like this: pick your partners wisely, right? You want people that have done this before. The development side of these projects are complicated, so you make sure you have somebody that understands those issues, understands the financing, has access to capital, and then kind of understands the sport. Once you're operating these teams, and USL does an incredible job of picking the right owners to come in that understand this. But those are all really important components of getting one of these projects done.
Well said. Absolutely. Makes a lot of sense, and incredible that you're able to not just impact the community, but also the river and the riverfront itself. So Dan, let's shift gears a little bit. What are the locals saying about the fan experience? What's it like to come to a game in Rhode Island? Talk to us about the feedback you get both from the stadium experience and the area around the stadium and Tidewater Landing.
Well, I'm happy to report that last week we picked up a major award for the stadium. So Sports Travel Magazine, which is a major publication in sports, actually awarded us, and it was because of the fans. It was a fan vote around the country. We won this new sports venue in all of America last year, which is a massive honor, which really shows, all the work that we put in, but it shows what the community feels about this building. There's a lot of passion about what we've done and kind of what's come from it. But the way we say it as we go around and we tour people, and we're getting, folks that come in all the way, from everywhere. We've had people from Arkansas and Texas and Charleston to come visit this venue now. And everybody that always comes in is blown away by the quality of the venue itself, but also of the fan experience of, we make sure that when people come through the door, they're going to see a smiling face. They're going to be welcomed. But I like to say it's almost like an NFL stadium in terms of the amount of technology, the quality of the venue we have, but we're right sized, right? So we're 10,500 seats and we fill that building. So where you might go to another building, a larger building, maybe have a bigger crowd, but it's not filled. There's just nothing like having a building that's right sized, that's full, that's got a lot of energy when there's a game going on. So everybody that leaves is blown away. And I'll tell you, it's not just one demographic. We have, kids with families, we have a fan zone where we're, blowing up balloons and doing face painting to, we've got, folks in their 60s and 70s, couples where this has now become the place for them to be and things for them to do on a Saturday night. So fan experience is really important to us. We know how important it is to keep people coming back, but we're really happy with the returns on that.
That's excellent. Well, one, congratulations on the award. That's incredible. And I love to hear that it's not just the soccer fanatics like myself, it's the families, it's all ages that are really enjoying having Rhode Island FC there in Pawtucket. Talk to us about what's next. So you've got this great stadium, super ambitious project, been highly impactful, award-winning. What's next for Tidewater Landing?
Yeah, so we've been hard at work for the last 18 months as construction was finishing. So the stadium's on the west side. We're working. We'll hopefully be coming out of the ground in the next year on about 400 plus apartments, both affordable and market rate apartments. Working really closely with our city and state partners, revitalizing a kind of derelict waterfront on that side of the river as well. So we're building new public infrastructure. We've got a new boardwalk, a river walk, this beautiful park space, and then a bridge that'll connect the east side to the west side, so a pedestrian bridge. So basically both sides of this river will be interconnected and they'll feel like one side, both along this beautiful river. So we're working on the housing component. Meanwhile, we're starting work to design that building just north of the stadium that'll have the retail restaurant space. Onward we go to continue to develop this vision. It takes some time, but it's really going to be incredible. It's going to be quite a destination when it's all said and done.
It sounds like it. And Dan, I know you mentioned a couple times some great takeaways as far as one, these projects aren't easy. Pick the right partners. Make sure you're surrounded with great experts. What are some of the other lessons learned you might share with the audience today who are looking to develop these types of projects in small to mid-sized cities?
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe I jumped towards some of those, but yeah, I mean, it really is. You need to do the research at the beginning, right? When you're getting into these projects to understand the impact. There's all sorts of different ways, and we've looked at almost every way to finance a stadium first. Whether it's a TIF district, whether it's direct grant funds, whether there's federal funds, there's all sorts of different ways to kind of solve for that. But what's critical is that partnership between the private side and the public side. It's important that there's alignment. It's important that there's, from the staff level person that's working on the deal and kind of grinding through it, up through the mayor's office, the city council, the governor. It's important that there's alignment from leadership before you start this project, because it will be hard, and you need to be able to kind of draw on that well of positivity as you're going forward, and make sure that you do the economic analysis to understand what the impacts are going to be. The good thing in USL is there's some really great case studies now that you can look on, you could draw upon to say, hey, this project in Rhode Island has done X, Y, and Z, and here's how they structured it. We're always happy to be helpful in that regard, Eric, if it's ever helpful. But that's, those are probably my big takeaways. And, the rainbow at the end of the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, it's there. Like it is having these stadiums complete and seeing the community come together on that opening day. There's nothing like it for a community. So.
Well, we certainly congratulate you on the success. We're going to ask you to stick around and help us answer some questions here. But I think your comment as far as working with officials is a great transition to our next guest. We are going to go from, if you think about this from a public-private partnership, the private developer side with Dan, more to the public official side with Raylan Ferreira. Raylan Ferreira is the town of Firestone, Colorado, assistant town manager. Firestone is just north of Denver, Colorado, a mid-sized market that in September of this year announced that they are going to take a 252-acre park, Central Park, and have it be the cornerstone of new development with a soccer-specific stadium that will also host a number of other events and really create an overall vibrant community destination and include both men's and women's pro soccer. So Raylan, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting. Fun to follow Dan, knowing that he's been through this already. This is good.
Well, I feel like it's a good juxtaposition. Dan's just on the is just finishing the process. You are just full throttle going into the process. So, Raylan, let's start there. Why was it important for the community of Firestone, for the town to bring a USL franchise to the community?
Yeah, so you heard Adam, you heard everybody refer to, we have this large piece of land, right? And what's interesting is this 250 some acres we've had for over 20 years. So the town has had an opportunity to develop something really special for its residents at the Central Park site for some time now. The desire has always been there. There's been several versions of it. Past boards have wanted to do things, everything from a recreational site to a residential development to mixed use, all those types of things. And it wasn't for a lack of interest or vision from our boards and from residents and the desire to make this site come to life and be a real gathering space for our community. What historically has held back this project from the town's perspective is it wasn't the what, it was the how. 250 acres is a big section of land, and it becomes very overwhelming very quickly, financially and planning wise. So specifically, how to fund this project of this scale without creating a financial burden on our residents. Fortunately, right now, we have a board right now, our board of trustees right now recognize that challenge fairly quickly and decided to approach this a little differently. They tasked staff with finding a creative solution and a partnership that would move this vision forward. The USL partnership became one of those creative options. It's an opportunity for us to leverage that private investment that you're hearing everybody talk about and share that vision instead of relying on our taxpayer dollars. Firestone, and I think you can ask any municipality, they're going to tell you their community is proud, their community wants something, they want something to talk about, and Firestone is no different. Our community is a proud community, and our board is focused on creating that place for our residents to gather and connect and possibly rely, and let's be honest, it's going to be beyond soccer. The USL team being able to rally behind a team is really exciting and something that brings people together, and our hope is something that will be an opportunity for our residents to be proud of and really gather behind.
Absolutely. And when you think about it from a community perspective, Raylan, talk about, soccer as an engine for development. How did that idea originate? You mentioned a lot of ideation around the table. How did soccer rise to the forefront of considerations for the community?
It's really interesting. Again, these conversations have been happening for several years now. Early on, we had a local soccer group that was interested in partnering with us. And again, the financial aspect of it was always a piece. From the community standpoint, this project creates an opportunity for everyday engagement. It's not just about what happens on the game day, as you heard Dan talk about. It's all the days. It's 365 days a year. What can you do? It's about the presence of a team. The park can shape daily life, the residents, the families here in Firestone. One of the things in Firestone is we struggle with we don't have a there. We don't have that place where people are going to go gather, right? And so this is a really great development opportunity for us to do that. It's the youth clinics, it's the local leagues, it's the year-round events that keep families active and spending their time in their town. They don't have to leave to go to those things. They want to stay here. They want to enjoy their community. People love Firestone. They love living here. They want to be here all day, every day, right? So it's creating those partnerships with local schools, nonprofits, building programs, and just strengthening community connections in general. We're a community that is a little more sparse. We need that central place for gathering. And this project is more than soccer. It's more than sport. It becomes a place for that connection, for that community identity, and to share experiences, right? That will hopefully just continue to ripple throughout our town.
Sounds like Central Park is going to live up to its name and its identity. For those joining us, don't forget, put questions in chat if you have any questions, and we'll certainly make sure that we get a chance to answer those here after we wrap up. Raylan, I want to ask you another question as it relates to the sports district itself. How did you engage with the community and with residents? How did you gather feedback from the people that live in the area?
You know, that's probably one of the most challenging things. I think you can speak to most local governments and they'll tell you, no news is good news. If the water's turning on and the toilets are flushing, you're not going to hear from your residents, which is a good thing, unless you really want this engagement to understand the needs, the desires, the wants, and all those types of things. So we did a few things. We incorporated almost, I don't know, a 6-month process of us meeting. So we have our board meetings, we have our set board meetings. We use those as opportunities. We had a set update, a set time where we gave information, we shared what was happening, and we heard from people. We had a website that people submitted questions to, kind of, what do you want? How does this look? Because the other piece of this is, you got to remember, in 20 years, there has been a lot of things promised or dreamed about in this area, and we've morphed, we've changed. So we've had to kind of evaluate, what does that really look like for our residents today? And what's the best way to do that? And so fortunately for us, we have a board of trustees that's willing to think outside the box, right? So from the beginning, they were open to exploring different partnerships, like the USL, to see what would align with our long-term vision of Central Park. So having that leadership was a very important piece of our puzzle, because they're also out there in the community. They're also out there speaking to our residents. And we have board members that have really wanted to take this property and this project and kind of just stand it up. They've been excited for it. I think one of the things that we have learned, I'm sure there's not a government or a municipality out there that's going to tell you, well, our communication is great, couldn't get any better. I would say we are one of those that would say we've got room to improve, and we learned a lot through this process, and we are excited to keep learning how to communicate to our residents. For example, we learned when we use the term stadium anchored, that was a term that brought a little anxiety and made people uncomfortable. Here in Colorado, you hear stadium, and I think they went to, Mile High, Bronco Stadium, I think Coors Field, the Rocky Stadium.
Sure.
50, 70,000 seat venues, and nobody wants that in their backyard, right? And so the term stadium and stadium anchored almost worked against us. And so we've kind of had to like repaint the picture of, it's not a stadium. Yes, it's a stadium, but it's a 5,000 to 8,000 seat stadium that is a place of community. It's not just this professional place that is untouchable to the residents. So I think a part of our responsibility was, engaging residents early and often, explaining the scope and intent in a little more, basic way, and a representation of what some of the terms that we were using were. And, just don't assume that somebody's going to think of a USL stadium different than any other stadium they've been to. It's a very daunting word when you ask the average person. And a really big piece for us is really to have the residents understand the why behind the project. The why is what is the driver, right? That's what gets everybody involved. That's what our residents want. They want to know why. Why are we taking this? What they think is a really, and it is, it's a beautiful flat piece of land. Open space is great. So why do we think we want to do something to that? And a lot of that is making sure they understand these benefits about the parks, the walkability, the local entertainment, the opportunities that every one of them can enjoy. And the critical part of that is, you know, hey, not only is the why that you get these benefits, there's a place for you and your family to gather. There is a place for us to have our events. Also, it's the partnership that we're doing is a really important partnership in that the financial burden is shifted, right? We're not asking our residents for that tax increase or something along those lines. So the investment possibilities and the collaboration options are really important to get out there too. And I would say really important for municipalities to tell the story before it gets told for you. We've experienced that a lot when there's a little bit of a lack of information. It turns out that lack of information can get filled with inaccuracies and not in a malicious way in any way, but people are going to fill the gap if you don't give them the information.
It's a strong lesson learned in messaging and branding, right? Control the message,
Yes.
control the brand, or the community will do that for you, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Nice. Well, Raylan, you mentioned it. 250 plus acres is a big amount of land. What are some of the other most impactful pieces of the Central Park vision that you're looking forward to?
Well, you heard Dan allude to, you know, you can't just drop a stadium. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, right? So we really want the idea of what this is going to be, which is it's not just a stadium. It is a economic opportunity. It is a social opportunity to that point where the economics, it's really fun to hear Dan, who has been through this, and hear him reference the actual numbers tied to it, right? We're at a point where we're putting numbers on a spreadsheet and we're doing some real logical things with it, but they're not concrete, they're not factual. So that's really a fun piece of this. And for our board of trustees right now to really take a step of making a tangible change and bringing this long-term standing vision to reality is really exciting. And so what that reality is it's more than the stadium. It becomes an economic and social opportunity. I mean, economically, we're talking about new jobs, creating opportunities for dining, creating all kinds of things. Those new jobs just aren't the immediate from the construction, they're ongoing. Also, the natural increase in local spending, right? I mean, again, real convenient to go after Dan because he says all the things that we're hoping for, right? I mean, Dan's painting a picture for us that says, okay, so what we think is going to happen, there's a real possibility there for us to have the nearby residents, visitors stopping in, and a new development where people are gathering at. And beyond economics, it's allowing Central Park to become activated, vibrant, a gathering space. Our town is really hungry. Our residents are really hungry for that opportunity to gather somewhere and have that place to go and just be a family and be with your community. I think this also is a really great opportunity for us to demonstrate what smart growth looks like. We've got a board of trustees that are all in and they understand what it looks like to be very diligent and very measured with everything that we do. And this project is a real example of that opportunity of how we can take economic vitality, some recreational pieces, and develop it into something that it ultimately strengthens the community today and for years to come, and really gives an identity for our residents.
That's incredible. Well, Raylan, thank you so much for sharing the town of Firestone's journey to bring USL professional soccer, both men's and women's, to the market. We look forward to seeing press releases and development coming out of the ground soon. We're going to we've got about 10 minutes left here. We're going to take some questions that have come in. So sounds like we've got a couple good questions from Gary Hallen, specifically around facility development, so in real estate. So Justin is the Chief Real Estate Officer. I'm going to kick the first one over to you. Gary asks, how much land do you need to have a sufficient area for a stadium? Is 10 to 25 acres enough, or do you need more?
It's a great question. So every market is different. I think that size is really where we're looking as a sweet spot. There's some things that will move that up and down. Parking around the venue, particularly structured parking, access to transit, how much of that 10 to 25 acres is usable, what are setback requirements. So there's some things that are site specific, but I think that's where we're looking at as a sweet spot, that 10 to 25 acres.
Excellent. Gary also asked, are these stadiums soccer specific, or are they able to do multi-use with maybe other sports or non-soccer activities?
It's a great question, and I think both guests touched on this. We really position our stadiums as multi-purpose venues, and I think that's key. We will have 20 men's, 20 women's, but this stadium needs to be activated and used by and enjoyed by the community every day, whether those are on-field events like high school football, lacrosse, rugby, or off-field events in our premium spaces where we have wedding receptions and graduation parties. We want this stadium used because that drives the foot traffic, which drives the surrounding development.
Absolutely. And Richard Lopez asked a question. I'll kick over to you. How can a municipality connect with the USL to explore a partnership like the one in Firestone?
Well, we really appreciate it. Our most valued relationships are with our city, county, and state partners. So please reach out to myself on LinkedIn or contact a member of my team. And we'd love to talk soccer and how we can bring economic development to your city.
Excellent. Dan, I'm going to kick the next question over to you. The question is, in what ways can sports tourism and wellness initiatives be leveraged to strengthen community trust to make sure that residents are included in the process?
I would tell you that's just built into the DNA that we have, at least, right? Everything we do as a club, as a stadium, it's all built within the community. So we're doing everything from our players are out from a wellness perspective. They're in the schools, being mentors for young students. To we're bringing people into the building. We've had yoga classes on our field. So we're doing everything to try to uplift that community, figure out how we can give back to the community that we're in, and then bring people in to experience things and to kind of uplift them. So it really is the DNA. I would say probably not just Rhode Island Football Club, but probably any club you talk to in USL. It's how they're going to be successful is by integrating really well into the communities.
Excellent. Raylan, I'm going to kick this question from Carl over to you. The question is, was consideration given to providing citizens with an opportunity to invest into ownership of the sports facility?
Not at this time, but Carl, I appreciate the idea. No, I don't think we're there. However, I'm going to jot that one down on a sticky note and make sure I keep that in mind, Carl. I think it's a fun opportunity to engage residents.
Excellent. Justin, question from Fred Mathis. He's mentioned that we're seeing more and more opportunities with men with Championship, League One, USL 2. Now with Gainbridge USL Super League starting to take hold, are we expecting to see future levels to the USLW League or the women's game?
Yes, I think expect a lot of news from the USL soon on our continued investment and growth in our women's space. And I think excitingly, the growth of women's sports and particularly women's soccer is here to stay. And we have the best women's athletes in the world. And I think it's way overdue to give them the platform like their male counterparts have had to showcase their talents across the country.
Absolutely, especially with the success of the U.S. women's team over the years.
That's right.
Absolutely. Dan, I'm going to kick this next one over to you. It reads very developer. It says, are these developments accretive without financial support from local government, from the city or county? Can they be done on their own?
It's a good question. Every market is different, right? So the economics, if you're developing in the hottest market in the country, they're probably a little different than maybe developing in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, right? So every market's different. I can tell you stadium finance is difficult. I'd say probably in most of the circumstances, a public investment is probably needed to make a building work. There are some examples, in USL where that's not the case. So it's very, very case by case based. And right now, interest rates are high, construction costs are high, so you got to get creative on how you're able to build anything, probably anywhere in the country right now. So I'd say there's no magic answer there, Eric, but case by case basis.
Makes sense. Another question for you, Dan. Caroline Nelson has asked, are there any grants or financial incentives being presented to the restaurants or the businesses that are being located next to the stadiums, or are they just going there for foot traffic?
That's a good question. So right now, there are no grants or incentives in the restaurants that we're going to be developing there. But the state of Rhode Island happens to have a lot of economic tools where they do. So we haven't tapped into that yet. But my guess is that we may tap into some of the state's economic development tools as we get there.
Excellent. We've got time just for one more question here. So, Justin, I'm going to kick it over to you. This is from Jim Finnerty. The question is, thoughts on partnering with a university or a college for a stadium? Has it been done before, or are there any plans to do that in the future, having dual users of these stadium assets?
That's a fantastic question, and one that we are working on across the country. I think we have a half dozen or so conversations with universities or community colleges. A lot of times they're land rich and cash poor because of all the investments that they need to make in the university. And so what we've been really excited about working with them is say, hey, how do we take this land that we can do all the same things? We want to create a better experience for your students, whether that is the shop, bars and restaurants and shops. We want to create great new housing options, and we want to create a space that they can go watch live events at. And so I think you'll see in the next couple of months many partnership announcements with universities and colleges to do all the amazing development things that we've been discussing here on college campuses.
Excellent. And last one I'll ask, Kareem Ray wants to know, USL Championship, USL League One, Super League, are there any caps to how many teams will be launched in the next 5 years, or how much are we going to see growth in the USL over the next coming years?
Well, the hard part is that the bar keeps getting raised. And so what we want now at USL is not more teams, it's more high quality teams. And to have a high quality teams, you need a high quality stadium and stadium district. And so what our challenge is right now is to find our city, county, and state partners that really believe in this vision for bringing professional soccer and economic development to their cities, and work with them to create these great projects. So it's not how many projects we're going to do, it's how many high quality projects we're going to do.
That makes a lot of sense. Justin, thank you so much for the time today. Thank you for hosting us. Thank you for all that joined us. Special shout out, Dan, Raylan, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it and are so grateful for your contribution. There's a lot of good questions that came through the chat that we didn't have time to get to. We will follow up and we'll respond to as many of those as we can, and we'll make this recording available at sportsfacilities.com. Thank you very much.